Welcome to the First Fight Podcast, Episode 1. Our first guest is a living legend. I'm a huge fan, and if you know anything about fighting, you've heard the name John Wayne Parr. He is also our first remote guest, so please excuse the poor audio quality. We're still working out the kinks with remote guests. However, I would never scrap an interview with a great like him. I really enjoyed the interview, of course, with his career and how much time he's been in it. He has a lot to say. So without further ado, on to the interview. You started fighting pretty young, younger than most. You were 14 years?
Yes, my first kickboxing fight was at 14. I had a few tournaments in Taekwondo when I was 11, and then luckily, not luckily, but at the time it was very devastating, but the Taekwondo school that I was training at, they closed down and the kickboxing started about 6 months later. So very fortunate to follow the kickboxing route, and yeah, I've never looked back.
So, were your parents encouraging of you getting involved in competing?
At the start, I was mainly through television. My dad was a horse jockey, and my mum trained horses. So that they had no fight, nothing. It was just a pure passion of watching the monkey magic on TV and watching movies like The Karate Kid and Van Damme. And that inspired me to want to be a martial artist in some form. And then it just happened. We moved houses a lot, and when we moved to a place called Brisbane, there was a Taekwondo school that was only walking distance from our house. So I started doing Taekwondo for about a year and a half, and then when that closed down, the kickboxing moved into the very same hall about 6 months later. So I thought, I'll give this a go. It's not Taekwondo, but I'll give it a go. I'll see what it's like. And then from the very first class, I thought, this is amazing. This is even better than Taekwondo. This is what I want to do forever. So, yeah. And then the opportunity came to fight a year later. I was very nervous and very scared. But, got the chance to get in there and have a go and never looked back.
Did someone kind of push you to fight for the first time, or was it something that you wanted to do on your own?
I definitely really wanted to do it. In the back of my head, even as a 14-year-old boy, I knew the only way that I was going to eventually be a world champion was to get in there and actually compete. On the night, though, I was very nervous. I was having second thoughts. I even asked my trainer at one stage, do you think it's too late now if I pulled out? And he said, yeah, I had my shorts on and gloves on, and he said, definitely too late. So
I feel like it's being on a roller coaster and you're already at the top and you just gotta stay on.
Yeah, definitely. So I hadn't seen my opponent. There was no Wayne, no official Wayne anyway. So it was just rock up and fight. So I was only in grade 10 at school, and that was on a Thursday night. I remember it was a Thursday night. I got to the venue. He must have weighed in a couple of hours before or something. So I weighed in night of the fight, weighed in at 54.5 kilos. I'm not sure what that is in pounds. And a few hours later, they've called my name. My song's come on. I walked to the ring. I got into the ring as a very nervous 14-year-old, and then I seen my opponent for the very first time. So I was 14. He must have been 15, and I had a little 14-year-old body with no muscle features, and my opponent had a six-pack, and he also had a 15-year-old teenage moustache. I'm thinking, oh my God, he's a man. I'm fighting a man. Yeah. And he was 2-0 in the ring already, and I was only a beginner, so he had a little bit more experience. He'd been there before.
Yeah.
I'd watched a lot of Van Damme, so I thought head kicks were the fashion. So every kick I was throwing was a head kick. And my opponent, he just kept the basic. He was just setting up leg kicks. He'd come in with the hands and finish with the leg kicks, trying to take out my legs, which I found was quite painful by halfway through the second round. I managed to weather the storm though. Got all the way to the end of the third. My opponent was declared the winner, but at the same time, I think I fought brave enough that as I was walking back to the change room, somebody in the crowd they cheered, "Oh, way to go, Wayne! Congratulations!" And then everyone else started cheering. So the whole room was like a little a little applause, and that really put the wind in my sails. I felt like
Yeah.
I'd won a world title, even though it was a loss. I still felt like I'd won just because I had the crowd on my side. Um, and that was from that moment. I remember this is the greatest memory that I've ever had. I really want to do this for the rest of my life. Um, Even though I lost, I want to go out there and even perform better again. Now that I've done it once, I know what to expect next time. So I'm going to pour all my energy into becoming the best kickboxer I can possibly be. So it definitely changed my life.
So yeah, that answers another question I was going to ask. That was the moment that you knew that was for you.
Oh, for sure. Just the adrenaline, the just having all eyes on me for those 3 rounds, and to be a crowd appreciation at the end of it, to get a round of applause was really sealed the deal. It was like I'm addicted to the applause.
Well, that's kind of one reason why I like doing these interviews, is that people put fighters on such a pedestal. I feel like they kind of worship them. It's such a alpha thing to do, and I really like showing kind of the vulnerability behind it all. Like, even you, someone who has this long storied career, you had your first time that you did it, and you, I'm sure, were scared, like most people are their first time.
Yes, definitely.
Do you still get the same kind of nerves, or is it different now?
Oh, it's definitely a lot different now. It's a very controlled emotion. I don't let the boogeyman affect me anymore. If I'm fighting a Yotzenglai or a Boar Cow or somebody of that nature, I still get a little bit nervous. But I try and channel my energy into all my positives, all my strengths. I know that I'm fit. I know that my technique's strong. I know that I have a will to win, and I know that I'm getting paid. So having that at the end of it, knowing
Extra
that no matter
motivation.
what happens, even if I go to hospital, at least I'm going to have some money in the bank the next day. So that definitely helps it make it worthwhile.
And that kind of brings me to another question. You've managed to do this longer than most people, and your family does it, your daughter as well, and your son too.
Yes.
How?
And my wife was
And
a
your wife.
two-time world champion as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. How do you manage? I mean, obviously you're successful with it, but how do you manage to continue making a living doing in art what you love? And were there times where you thought maybe you weren't able to do that? You wouldn't be able to provide doing that?
Uh, yeah, I've always had a passion like I was saying, since I could pretty much walk, that I wanted to be the best of the best. And it's almost like trying to climb Everest, but there is no summit. You just keep climbing and climbing and climbing, and then every now and again you stop and you look down and you see how far you've come, but then you look up and there's still so far to go. I believe, even though with all the credentials behind me, there's so many more things I'd love to achieve.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it just feels like it's never enough to secure that legacy. Every fight counts.
Yeah.
Um,
And there has
so
been a
and
time where you retired briefly.
Yes, 2012. I just got to the stage where I felt I was almost bored. I was bored doing the same runs, the same pads, the same training day in day out. And it wasn't until I had that little break that I realized that why I was training and why I was fighting is because the pure joy of how much I loved it. Not just because I had to do it anymore. It's because I love doing it.
Yeah.
And then since I've been back again, it's reignited that fuel again. It's like, yeah, well, I don't want to get a normal job. I don't want to lift bricks, and I don't want to wash dishes. If I can get a payday from entertaining the crowd with something that I'm good at, I want to try and ride that wave for as long as I can.
Well, yeah, I mean it's tough. I think the fans and people, they only see maybe 1% of what really goes into it, and everything else is a grind. It's not as glamorous as what people think. So it's, I think, a really tough business, and really easy to like get in that love-hate relationship with it.
Yes.
Do you ever get in that to that point where you hated it, or has your love for it always kind of
For sure.
shown
When I
through?
was in Thailand, I lived there for a long time, and then the training would train 3 hours in the morning, 3.5 hours at night, and then every day you're expected to train harder than you did yesterday. So you'd have like, let's just say a 6 week camp, and by week 4, week 5, you're just totally exhausted. Your body's sore. You don't want to see the Thai pads anymore. You're overtraining. But then you have, and it's like, this is it. After this fight, I'm going to go back to Australia. I'm done. But then you have the fight, you have the win, you fought on TV, you're in the magazines, you're in the newspaper, and then it's like, yes, you've achieved that little bit of fame for that one fight that might be only for a day or for a few days. Plus you have that adrenaline dump that you get to enjoy for a week or so, that makes it all worthwhile as well. And then it's time to get back into the gym and time to start training again. And then you get to about that 4th or 5th week, and it's like, that's it, I'm done. I'm so over this. I'm going to go back to Australia. It's just this vicious cycle that I was living from fight to fight. So yeah, it ended up lasting 4 years before I had an infection in my shin, where I had to end up going home to Australia. And that's when I realised I'm not a Thai. It's time to be an Aussie again.
Well, it's definitely a different way of training there. That's for sure.
Yeah. They have no idea of longevity either. Their idea is train 6-7 days a week, as hard as you can, every day. If you have an injury, if you have a sore leg, just don't kick with that leg. Just use the knee instead of kicking. Or if you have a sore hand, change it to an elbow. And because you live at the camp, you can't hide. Even on your day off, you're still there. You can't turn off. We're in Australia. We have days off. We can rejuvenate. We can go to pools. We can get massages. We can see a nutritionist. There's a bit of more science involved behind the sport, instead of just caveman style of just hit things as much as
Run
you can.
forever.
Run forever.
Bag work all the time. I think a lot of people glorify that way of training, but I think that way of training kind of comes out of a necessity. I think longevity, if you're a professional here, is you value recovery more and quality training over just straight up wearing your body out.
Training 7 days a week was a real test, because you get to Saturday afternoon, you had your session, and in the back of your mind, you have to train again the next day, and then you train Sunday, and then Monday comes along, and you go, well, there goes my window of opportunity to have a small break. Now I've got another 6-7 days ahead of me. If maybe I might get the next Sunday off, and it's just so tiring, and your body just wants to give out. It can't maintain the crazy day in day out like that. So, and then in Australia, it's so much more relaxed. I'm my own boss here. I don't have a coach. I train myself with my friends, and if I want a day off, I can have a day off, and no one's gonna yell at me. No one's gonna. Yeah, it's good.
Well, it's hard. Sometimes it's hard fighting when you're feeling pushed by someone else. I think you have to push yourself.
Yes.
Because that's ultimately who's out there keeping you going. I think heart goes a long way, which is something I think you show a lot of, obviously, in all your fights and with your lifestyle, continuing to do it all these years.
Yeah.
Now, how do you feel about your daughter competing? Are you more proud than you've ever been?
Yeah, it's amazing. She loves it with all her heart. She packs her training gear in her school bag, so by the time she finishes school, she's packed and ready to go. So, and she has a little social club at the gym where they all train together, run, do pads, spar, and then they just hang out and go to the movies, and they're all best mates. So it's not just about the training; it's about the lifestyle.
Totally.
She loves the lifestyle. And then about 2 months ago or so, we had the opportunity to have our first international fight in England. So we jumped on the plane for 30 hours. We got the fight, got the win, brought the belt home to Australia, and for the first time, she got the experience of carrying her own belt through an international airport, and having all eyes on her, where people come up and ask them for photos. And so for a little girl that's 14-year-old to be put in that position, it's such a crazy and very cool lifetime memory. And especially as a father to spend quality time with me and her for that whole week and the lead up. It was definitely a very cherished memory that I'll carry forever to the grave.
Well, it's not many people get to experience that, and that's amazing that you were able to pass along that passion to her. And like you said, it is the lifestyle. It's not just about the fighting. I always encourage people to just try some martial arts. They don't have to compete, but just as an adult, I think it's so important to have a positive hobby, healthy hobby. Most people just want to go drinking or, I don't know, watch TV or whatever.
Yeah, I definitely want to be an ambassador for martial arts, not just Muay Thai, or martial arts in general. I think people, if they can get out of the house for an hour, a couple of times a week, put down the phone, turn off the TV, and just move the body, and then see yourself expanding. So you might only kick 10 times a day, but then next time you go to the gym, you might pump out 20, and next time you go in, you might pump out 25. So every time that you come into the gym, you're achieving something that you didn't think you could do the day before. And it's such a rewarding feeling knowing that you can, whatever you put your mind to, you can achieve. So yeah, it's not just physical, but it's also mental and positive. It's positive in so many aspects.
Completely. I mean, I lost my first fight as well, but I was so happy that I was able to do it, and I didn't think I would ever do it. And I love teaching people that, just putting them in that position where they're doing something they didn't think they could do, whether it's just something as simple as a head kick or, basic things. I think you condition yourself to start pushing yourself in other areas. Now, you and your wife have a gym. My fiance he fights in the UFC, and we plan on having a gym in the future. What would be the number one tip you would give us?
Be as friendly to your students as possible. So every student is like your new best friend. So if you show them love, they'll give you love back. So instead of walking around like I'm more superior than you, it's like now you're just friends having fun. I like to make jokes, and I like to keep it as casual as possible, and then I help, of course, with technique and everything at the same time. But I also want people to have fun. It's not about, all right, whatever I do, whatever I say, you must do. It's like, let's have fun together, and I'm going to help you in the best possible way to make you be as awesome as possible, and while we're having fun.
Well, you do a pretty good job of it. You're one of my favorite Instagram accounts to follow. And I've listened to other podcasts of you, and when I was thinking of different topics to discuss, passion just popped out at me, because you can just hear in your voice when you're talking about it how much you love it. And I think that's an inspiration, especially looking at how long you've done this, because like I said, it's a heartbreaking business to be a part of, and it wears on you, and to see someone that can do it so long with such a storied career is really impressive.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, it's I couldn't. I feel like there's something missing in my life if I didn't have martial arts. It's consumed me. Where it's got to the stage where if I'm not training it, I'm at least thinking about it. And then it's also amazing when you get the opportunity to mold new fighters. So they came into the gym with no expectations of what they can do. They don't know how to keep their hands up, and then you show them how to punch, you show them how to kick, you show them how to go through combinations, you show them how to hit pads, and then say 4 to 6 months later they have their first fight and they get their win, and then it feels like you've won with them. The joy and how a single fight can be a life-changing achievement for not only for themselves. Again, now they have this new confidence within themselves to whatever they do, whether it be a sport or even in their job. Now they know that they can achieve what they want to achieve. So yeah, I think it's a magical moment to be part of the process.
Oh yeah, I mean that's my favorite part of it all is the platform to help other people and inspire other people, which you've done plenty of. Um, I guess my last question is, what would you say is the biggest gift fighting and martial arts has given you in your life?
The opportunity to travel the world. So when the promoter rings up, they'll say, "Hey, we have a promotion on this date. It's in this country against this guy, and we're going to give you this much money." So they pay for the airfare, they pay for accommodation, um, hopefully they pay for your food, uh, and then if you're very lucky, you might have 2 or 3 days after the fight to be a tourist. So not only do you get to go over there and do some work, but you also get to see other lifestyles and cultures and experience, another uh, country that you would never possibly get to do if you're in a normal job. So it's such a cool thing to and have people come up to you that are from totally different parts of the world come up and shake your hand and ask for a photo. It's like I don't even believe you know who I am. And they go, oh yeah, we've been following you for years. It's like oh my crap. Yeah, it's so humbling to have a good reputation all around the world. It's so nice.
It's a dream, really.
Yeah, and it's nice to be respected.
Well, John, I respect you, and I really appreciate you taking the time out to talk with me and share your story. And maybe someday I'll be in Australia and get to. Your daughter will be bigger. We can.
Yeah,
I'll have
yeah.
a sparring
So
partner.
so so my winter is your summer. So if you ever want to escape your winter, come down to Australia and come and swim in our oceans.
There we go. It's a beautiful place.